We'll have more calls on this in a moment, but as you know, we sent a reporter down to Croydon, where parents can expect a fine of up to £130. I totally misread that, my apologies. £130 if they drive near their child's school under a pilot scheme which is trying to solve traffic problems. The schools, if you live in the Croydon area, are Woodcote Primary School, Heavers Farm Primary and St Chad's Roman Catholic Primary School in nearby Selhurst. What happens is, if you drive in the zone without a permit, you'll get a £130 penalty charge, but, as often happens with tickets, if you pay within 2 weeks, it comes down to £65. LBC's reporter Rachel Venables has been at one of the schools.
So I understand that it's people's drives, however, they should at least... We're not allowed to park in the school, we can't park anywhere else, so it makes an inconvenience, and because there's a school literally on the next road, there's nowhere to park, so it's really unfair.
So this morning, and yesterday was yesterday the first day of school, did you have to take longer to get in, trying to find a space?
I now have to leave 20 minutes earlier to find somewhere to park, so he now has to wake up at 6:30 just to make sure they have somewhere to park and I can get to work on time, because if he's late, that makes me late as well, so you just have to make sure you leave even earlier now.
And someone said to me that it's because this used to be quite dangerous.
No, it was people have got hit, their side mirrors were taken off, it's like, it was just manic, because everyone, all here, this area was just completely blocked, it was gridlock, you would have like standoffs, people wouldn't want to move back, people are not moving forward, it was a lot to deal with, and people, like, say like cars like this, they were blocking them in.
That's been coming for a long time, because it's been kind of scary sometimes, with the parents driving in, and there's a lot of commotion there. There's always quarrelling about parking space, so I think this is a welcome. Yeah, we like this.
It is a lot. I didn't realise it was that much.
Do you think that goes too far, that amount of money, or do you think for the sake of, these kids' safety, it's worth it?
It's probably worth it. It was so bad down this road. It used to just be backed up with traffic the whole time. If it stops people doing that and it's safer for the children, then it's working.
The fact that it's a £130 fine, if you ever have a day where you're running really late and you just want to turn into this road, that's what you've got to face. How do you feel about that amount of money?
I wouldn't do it personally. I just have to be late. I don't have that sort of money, and to be honest with you, I don't get parking fines. I try to avoid them sort of things, so yeah, I'll just have to be late.
Rachel Venables reporting from outside one of those schools. To Tim Pollard now, who's leader of the Conservatives on the Labour-led Croydon Council, joins me now. How much support do you suppose there is among your constituents here? Good morning.
I'm not sure anybody knows at this point in time. This is one of those classic things that our council does, and it does them far too often, where it just decides to do something and puts it in and doesn't really consult properly. So this particular scheme, they announced, I think in July, just as the schools were closing, for implementation in September. So actually the consultation was a complete waste of time, because nobody has been able to say whether it's going to work or not, whether it works for them, what the problems are. They've just rushed it. And it might well be a decent thing to do, but you've got to take people with you and make sure that, in particular, the local residents in the area who are also going to get caught up with this. For example, if you have a delivery made during the time that the scheme's in operation, or you want to deliver your parents back to their house.
Yes, or someone... I spoke about this earlier, Councillor, and you might, if I'm a taxi driver and I've got to deliver a disabled person to his or her home, I'm now going to pay £65 for the privilege.
Or you're going to have to register on the person who lives there is going to have to register for you. So it's quite a labour-intensive scheme. Do
you think they've thought it through fully, Councillor?
No, I don't. If I'm honest with you,
Right.
The frustration is that at the heart of this idea, there is a perfectly reasonable idea to be implemented. They've just done it too fast, and unfortunately they do this all the time. The consultation in Croydon basically means an opportunity for people to say why they don't want something so the council can ignore it.
Lastly, we're having calls from this, and one gentleman is suggesting that the signage is not particularly adequate, it's at a bad angle, and in one instance it's almost hidden by a tree. Doesn't seem particularly fair. I appreciate you've not put it in, but if that's the case, it's not very fair, is it?
No, and as I said at the start...
Is this your ward, by the way, or not?
No, actually, none of the schools
in your ward
are in my ward.
Right.
Although I actually know them all reasonably well, because I used to be the cabinet member for children and young people, so I visited them all at various points.
So there is a problem, is there, with cars around these schools?
There's a problem with cars around many schools, and solving that problem is definitely a good idea if we can. But you've just got to make sure you get the balance right. You balance the needs of the parents, the kids, and the local residents, and you bring a scheme in that people buy into and support.
Councillor, thanks. Tim Pollard, you lead the Conservatives from Croydon Council.